Hey, it's John and Mike, brew-dudes.com. Mike changed his shirt because he got all wet from the camper somehow. I was going to make up some story about him pouring the Kvik yeast ale all over his head saying, I love this stuff. And then us saying, you know, maybe you should change your shirt, but that's not what happened. It's just another weekly installment from these Brew Dudes. And this time around we have a New England IPA.
Of sorts.
Of sorts, because why not, right? Is this
Why
for
not?
Is this for maybe a brother-in-law of yours
This
or something?
is another attempt to appease, yes, members of the family.
Keep them away.
Yes.
Look, social distancing, I'm just gonna leave this on your porch, don't come near me. So this is another one of these IPAs.
So my brother-in-law, lifelong Bud Light drinker, 2 years ago or so, he discovered the joys of New England IPA, double IPA, and has been pounding those things down like crazy to the point where now he actually has a kegerator for a Sankey tap hookup. He's, so he's buying 6 barrels of New England IPA all the time and forcing me to try them and drink them. And I love, because we do a lot of smash beers here.
Of course. I
love the innovation that's happening in the hop breeding programs, and I love the flavor combinations with the new hops. I love it.
Sure.
But one thing I don't like, 2 big things I don't like about New England IPA in general, is this American need to take something that doesn't need to be 8% and make it 9% alcohol by volume, right?
Or even higher.
A lot of these beers, these double IPAs, all on average, just New England IPA on average now is over 7%. And while the flavor is great, a certain percentage of the time, just the alcohol prevents me from wanting to explore the beers more. And a lot of them too have a lot of just hop material flavor, right? There's a lot of what I guess I would just gonna call it hop bite.
Yeah.
And you don't really just enjoy the oils or the fruitiness and stuff like that. There's just a lot of hop material. So anyway, my brother-in-law, after 2.5 years of pounding these babies down, he has decided too that, you know what, these 8% beers are just getting to be too much for him, right?
Wow.
So he asked me, he's got an event coming up and he wanted me to brew a beer for him. He wants what he calls a juicy, hazy bomb, a juice bomb, but he wants it to be drinkable, and drinkable to him means less alcohol. To me, I explain that as, you want a session beer. What I want to see if I can get that juicy hop character into a 4.5% beer.
Okay.
And so this, while I hate this term as well, this is an attempt to sort of make, and even says on my recipe sheet, a session IPA, session New England IPA. So shooting for about somewhere between 4 and 5%.
Okay.
So let me give you the basic recipe off the top of the bat. It's 4 pounds of Pilsner malt, which is 1.8 kilograms. It's 3.5 pounds of a pale malt, American pale malt, which is a little over 1.5 kilograms. Then it's 1 pound of torrefied wheat and 1 pound of flaked oats. Both of those, that's 450 grams. So that's the grain bill. I throw little rice hulls in the mash, but I don't count that in the recipe. Our tap water, treated with a Camden tablet as usual.
Yep.
And I added 4 grams of gypsum to the mash.
Nice.
And I also added 2 mils of lactic acid to get the pH right. I'll give you the water profile because that's what we're talking about right now. It's 121 of ppms of calcium, 114 ppms of sodium, and then it's 264 ppms of chloride in our water.
Yep.
And the sulfate, now I bumped that sulfate up, so now I'm at 171 ppm of sulfate for a 1.6 to 1 chloride to sulfate ratio rate. So I didn't go crazy here. I didn't go crazy. I wasn't trying to bust it out. Mainly because I didn't need any more calcium in there to adjust the mash, so I didn't really go on from there. So that's the grain bill. And then the way I hopped this baby is, well, let me tell you, I mashed at 152, or I wrote this down this time. I didn't write it down, 152, 155 was my mash time. Oh yeah, because it's a session beer, I mashed in high for 155 or 68 degrees C. Okay, so I want to try to preserve some body.
Sure.
Okay, so for the hops, I did 1 ounce each or 28 grams each of Galaxy, Simcoe, and Ekuanot at 10 minutes left in the boil.
Okay.
So nothing went in until 10 minutes left in the boil. Then when I hit the end of the boil, I chilled down to 145 degrees Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius. And I repeated that again, 1 ounce each, 28 grams each of Galaxy, Simcoe, and Ekuanot. And I did a whirlpool at 145, holding 145 for 15 minutes. Then I knocked out the rest of the way and I fermented the beer completely. And I fermented with a blend of, primarily it was the Lallemand East Coast Ale yeast, dry. And I also fermented with a repitch of White Labs, the WLP 007 dry English ale, because I had it from that other thing we did. So I wanted to just sort of blend those two yeasts together just because, you know.
Why not?
And so the resulting beer has got a little bit of haze to it. It's got a little bit of a golden color to it, which I really like.
Persistent head, lacing.
When I tasted it, so then I did a closed transfer. Well, when I tasted it in the fermenter, I thought it tasted great, but I was a little bit concerned because there's no bitterness, 16-minute bitterness addition.
Nope.
I was a little bit concerned the hop character was a little lacking. So what I did at that moment in time, then is my plan was to dry hop this with 2 ounces or 56 grams of Amarillo. Instead, just being a little bit on the cautious side, I dry hopped it. I closed transfer to a keg. I dry hopped in the keg with 2 ounces of Amarillo and 2 ounces of Azaaca, just to make sure I was getting some more hop character in there.
Okay.
And the other thing that I did is I took some of the recent advice from Scott Janis's work on dry hopping. You'll notice there was no real biotransformation hops in this.
Right.
I didn't dry hop during fermentation, although you can ask yourself about 145 degree hop stand for 15 minutes. If there's going to be some biotransformation, the oils are available.
Yep.
But aside from that, I chilled the beer first and then dry hopped I was shooting for 48 hours, but I was sort of under the gun to get a tasting of this beer. So I dry hopped for 36 hours with 4 ounces of hops. Now the Scott Janis work talks about being less than 48 hours cold to avoid that hop vegetal material, that hop bite. So that was part of my goal, is to not have hop bite.
Yeah.
And so that's what I went for. The starting gravity of this beer was 1044, and it finished at 1010. For an ABV of a perfect 4.5%.
Whoa, very nice.
4.5%.
Very nice.
So yes. I hit that. I'm pretty happy with how all the numbers in the session.
Quite sessionable. Absolutely. I mean, I wish that, since you told me that, oh man, I didn't think it was hoppy enough. Certainly, very strong aroma. I'm getting a lot of the Galaxy. To be honest, like I'd say. A lot of the tropical fruitiness on the nose.
5 different hops in here. They're all available.
Yeah, they're all there.
So late in the party.
I think in the flavor, it's funny. Like there's a tad of the Simcoe, and then the Amarillo I think really shines through too. I think there's a nice orangey.
Yeah, despite just being dry hopped to the Amarillo, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, I'm glad you brought up the Simcoe, because I don't think I've ever worked with Simcoe before.
Really?
Not that I remember, at least. And so what's interesting, so there's a little bit of piney, a little bit of pithy in here.
Yep.
I can only assume it's coming from the Simcoe.
That's my thought.
So I don't mind it. I think it actually balances all that fruit. I think it's important to have that kind of balance. So I brewed this relatively quickly. This was brewed, and I brewed this on 6/21. We were just drinking it. I was drinking it 4 days ago. So turning it over pretty quick. And the reason for that is because I wanted to get this done, have a taste test with my brother-in-law, and then tweak it and brew the next batch for his event.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I think what I'm going to do, and he probably wouldn't notice the difference per se, but what I want to do is, I think I'm going to drop out the Simcoe.
Yeah.
And come in with something else. And I haven't exactly decided yet what it's going to be. I've thought about replacing the Simcoe with the Amarillo. I want to avoid Citra, because I think Citra brings more of that hop bite to the party more often than it brings happy and joy, right? Because Simcoe is praised for being happy and joy, but even commercial smash versions of Citra it's such hit or miss what batch of Citra you get, right? So I wanted to avoid that. So I thought about, I could either come in with Amarillo, or I thought about really going out there, maybe doing like Huel Melon.
Really?
To whack it out, or El Dorado might be an interesting substitute in there.
I was thinking.
I just want to fruit it up a little bit more.
Oh, you want more fruit? Okay. I was thinking like, because Simcoe's.
Or Sabro or something.
Well, Simcoe's, to me, is going to give you more of the piney bitterness thing that's going on. And if you think it's a little too strong, why not like a Chinook or something like that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like that Chinook that I have growing in my backyard, I think makes a pretty nice, you know, piney herbal thing. Yep. That was my thought. If you were looking to replace it, the Simcoe edition, then maybe Chinook could be something else that you still have that like hop piney nature going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be too fruity, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
like,
I actually was thinking about doing 2 versions, doing a double run.
You got some time on your hands.
Well,
friend.
I'm trying to push these things fast. So the event is the 24th of July, so I've got to get it. So that means I have to have it in the keg by the 20th.
Okay.
To make sure I dry hop and carbonate.
Okay.
I've got my speed carbonation down now.
By the time this gets published, that's gonna people are
I'll be
like,
drinking the
are
next
you
year.
kidding me? That's like a couple of days away. But you know, because of these COVID days, we've got to you know, basically film these. I don't know if that's the proper term, but we have to do these like side by side.
But I do want to mention one more thing, is that the 4.5% alcohol in this, right?
Yeah.
I think is a total joy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Because when we first started drinking this, my wife and I tried it, and then we brought a couple down to my brother-in-law. I mean, I pounded down like 2 of these without even thinking about it, just because it tasted so good, so fresh.
Yep.
The hop character, I mean, I actually like really enjoyed it, but I didn't feel it at all. It was like great, as opposed to if you walked into an 8%er that you really loved and you tried to pound down 2 of those. I mean, okay, you can call me a lightweight, but I just don't enjoy that experience anymore. I just don't. It's not that I dislike those beers. I'll drink one of them, but when I want to drink a few beers, that's what session beers are all about.
There's a joy that comes with being able to sit down and drink.
But I think there's a hop profile that's been achieved without a ton of alcohol.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed. I think that you've hit that mark pretty well. Sorry, I was just trying to allude to something that you used to say to me a long, long time ago. If we're going to go out, this is all I want to do. I want to sit down and drink. And with a beer like this, that is something you can do for a very long time.
And it fits our sunny, nice weather days now. So.
All right, well, I can't wait to see this is the test batch. I can't wait to see like the final, the final version of it. But I don't know. I trust your judgment. I just thought that if you're looking for something that's going to bring like more of a Simcoe element to it,
well, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like I would look and see what like some things that would be a good alternative to that. I go back and forth. I even thought that like since you added Simcoe late in the boil, that you get more of, kind of the lighter, fruity things of Simcoe, but that's not the case.
Again, I think it has to do with the batch of Simcoe, right? Simcoe is a pretty popular hop for a couple West Coast breweries. So when the harvest is ready, they go pick the stuff that has the sexiest profile, the good stuff, right? And what finally makes its way to us on the market,
on the homebrew side,
is still Simcoe, but it's a different it's a different lot. Maybe it's picked on a different day, so the character can be wildly different than what the marketers tell us they are, right? I mean, supposedly Simcoe can sometimes bring pineapple to the party,
right?
But it's that I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if there is pineapple here, it's coming from the Galaxy and the Ekuanot.
So what did we learn? We learned that Mike can pack in a big hop punch even at a sessionable alcohol by volume
session beers,
of 4.5%.
Session beers.
And this was just his test batch, so he was just like toying with us.
Yeah.
He's just like, this is just something I tossed off. Not even a big deal. So we'll look forward to the final version. Are you going to save any of this? Do you think we could compare and contrast?
Yeah, we will.
All right.
I mean, there'll be some age on it, but we'll see.
I know. But at least
we're brewing fast.
I'll try to keep this in my memory and say I remember way back when it tasted this way. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you like this kind of video, we do this every week. So subscribe to our channel and check us out. We usually post on Wednesdays. For John and Mike, brew-dudes.com, I'm out of beer,
Oh no.
but brew on.
Cheers.